Hi everyone, it's Claire Meredith. I'm really sorry we started late. We had a technical glitch. I'm just wondering if Dave can just confirm that he can hear me as well. That would be great. Bit of a technical situation. So let's start again. Let's have a moment just to let go of the day, let go of the technical glitches and the rush and whatever else is happening. And just take a deep breath in with me. And breathe out again. Great. So I'm Claire Meredith and I'm hosting tonight's webinar, 5 Steps to Finding Work You Love. If you haven't already got a pen and paper, just grab one and we can get started. I'll just go straight in there because we've just lost a little bit of time. Let me just see if I can find my slides. Lovely. Okay. So hopefully you can see my slides there and we'll get going. I don't want to waste anyone's time today, as we started late particularly, so I'm just going to check in with who we have on the webinar. So I'll just go through a few options and let you know. So you're here, you're in the right place if you really don't enjoy your work and you want to do something different, but you're confused about what that actually is. You don't actually know what you want to do. And maybe you even wonder whether it is possible to find work you love. You know, you've heard of people actually enjoying work, but could you do it? Could you have that? Maybe you want to find work you love, but you just don't know where to start. Maybe you've started thinking about changing career or swapping jobs, but nothing really seems to be grabbing you, and it seems to be an awful lot of work for what is an uncertain outcome, basically. And maybe actually it's getting a bit worse and that your work is affecting your health and your energy, and you think, oh no, it's time to do something. Because if you go on like this, you know, you can see that it's not going to get any better. And maybe you've heard of other people changing and living like lives in which they do enjoy their work, but you wonder if you could ever create that kind of enjoyment, basically. And maybe you just want to do something really big and crazy, but you don't know how to achieve it, and you don't really know anyone else who wants that. You're all in the right place. I'm going to be going through the 5 steps to finding work you love, plus I'll cover why you should find work you love and why that's really crucial. The 5 mistakes that I've made finding work I love, and my personal strategies for managing that transition. So tonight I'm not selling anything on the webinar. This isn't what I'm here for. I am here to answer specific questions about your journey. And so there is a little time for questions later. So please send them in via the chat box if you'd like to. You can log in using existing social media, Facebook, etc. Or you can create a login at the bottom. So beneath the video, there's a chat box. And I have this special invitation for those of you who, I guess, get to the end of the webinar and just kind of want to do something, and you want to really get going. So there's a special invitation there. So do stick around, listen up to that towards the end. So who am I? Well, you might not know me. My name's Claire Meredith, and I changed careers for the first time when I'd been in my first kind of proper job. For just about a year, and that was a graduate job. And after that, I became a bit of a serial career changer, you know, changing jobs and industry and always trying to get closer to that kind of perfect job, the job of my dreams. You know, I wanted more from my work. I wanted more autonomy. I wanted creativity. I wanted time and space to myself to do the things I really love to do. And I wanted to enjoy my work, you know, I wanted to love what I did. I didn't want to sit on a beach all day and sip cocktails. That wasn't really what it was about. I mean, that's nice sometimes, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like the majority of my life was going to be that. And as I started this career change journey, I did lots of exercises, I read lots of books, I took courses, I hired people, I basically did everything I could to find work I loved. And I didn't know I wasn't working. I was kind of getting closer to what I wanted with all the career moves that I made, but it still wasn't right. And it ended up that my CV looked a bit like a dog's dinner. And it was in my last job, in a marketing job for a professional services firm in London, when I began to realize how much not doing work I love was affecting me, and particularly my health, my well-being. And I realized I had to do something, because otherwise I would end up like some people I know. I've been there 20 years now. That's great. They're really loyal to a brilliant company. But I felt like I wanted more than that. I wanted to expand myself out of the office environment and do something different. And it took me to the point of almost being burnt out to realize that I had to make a decision about this, and I had to do something rather than just let it happen to me, let this journey unfold inevitably. And I had to find out what I wanted before I could go and find the work I love. And most people, you know, they see what they can do, and then they go out and look for something that kind of matches. That was interesting. That didn't work for me. It wasn't until I got really clear on the kind of work I love to do that I could go get it. And now I'm actually doing it. I live in Italy and in England, and I help people like you, people who want to be inspired and supported to live their most adventurous life, their fulfilled life, a life of beauty and radiance and adventure. And so I'm hosting this webinar from Devon in England, but next week I'm back in Italy. And I'm excited about getting on the plane again and being there. I speak to and meet wonderful people doing what I do, and work with people who I love and really get on with, and it's amazing. And I want this webinar to be a way to inspire you, firstly, so you don't have to take years finding work that you love like I did, but you can take my experience and start right from the place you need to, not go around in circles, and find out what work you'd love to do. So onwards, let's go to the first slide. All my slides have got pictures on them because they're my pictures, and it's a way of sharing a bit of what my life is like. I took this picture as a snapshot of a moment really last year, and it was it really represented that life that I'd craved so long for, which was to travel, to really be myself, and just kind of take stock whenever I wanted to. So this was at Gatwick. I was sitting having a coffee, and it was just this scene summed it up. This is my hat on the side. I travel with this hat. It's good for the sun. I'm quite fair skinned, so I like to have a nice hat covering on my head. And my iPad, just making some notes and listening to some music, and with my cappuccino. And I guess kind of saying why you should do work you love, that's kind of a question I wanted to address on tonight's webinar. Why should you do work you love? Well, if you're here and you're listening and you have that kind of dissatisfaction with where you are now, that feeling you have, I had that too. I had that kind of almost felt guilty for having it, because I had a great job. I've worked for great companies with amazing people, lovely people, good benefits, and all this kind of thing. I had a great career path, but I still had this feeling that I wanted something else. And that feeling kind of doesn't go away if you ignore it. You know, I ignored it for a long time, and then I tried to fulfill it with things that weren't quite right, but were a bit closer to what I wanted. And I've tried getting another job. I've taken time off, having some time out. You should do work you love, because it deserves your best shot. You know, that thing inside of you that's saying, I really want something different. I really want to be able to give more in my work, perhaps. I want to make a contribution, and I want to use all of my skills. If you're not doing that where you are right now, then ultimately that feeling probably won't let you rest. Like, you can squash it down there and I know that I've done it. But our souls, our whole beings won't let us be satisfied unless we listen to that feeling. And I found that although I had a great job and I was, trying to be grateful for that, which I was, I couldn't ignore the fact that I wanted a change. And I found that my health, my well-being was suffering. Not that I had a particular disease or illness, but that I was developing things within my health, and I didn't feel well within myself, and I looked not great. You know, I looked in the mirror and I was like, whoa, I'm really tired all the time, that kind of thing. And I realized that, like, I had to do something, otherwise, you know, it would just carry on and get worse, basically. So I want to encourage you that you can find work you love. It's worth it. And I want you to know that through my experience, I want to save you the time, effort, and the process of change that I've been through several times over. So here's, I chose this picture because it's got a little signpost in. I kind of thought it represented, you know, the mistakes that we could make. And the signpost is also actually in Pisa. It's quite a lot in English there. This is just near the Leaning Tower of Pisa, where I visited Italy the second time. So the 5 mistakes to avoid. The first mistake people make, I think, when they're thinking about career change is just kind of getting out there as soon as possible. Now, there are some situations where that might be advisable, but I would say if there's days you have when it's okay at work, stay there, stay where you are. If it's giving you income and you've got some free time, you know, you know your job a little bit, so it's not as if it's a new thing. Because we are tempted when we're thinking about changing to career just to take another job, like maybe a lesser paid job, like take a pay cut in a different industry that we're kind of interested in or want to move into, or just have a variety. I would say don't do this. Going through the change can be good in that we have a short-term novelty factor, and that we maybe move a bit closer to what we're doing. But I went through these changes. I went through. I started in a tax job. I did a law degree to start with at university, and I started in a tax job, and then I went basically to the opposite direction. I went into a more creative job, in an industry which again itself was creative. So, but I know that short term was a good move for me. It took me out of the immediate environment, which I was finding difficult. Actually, it can be counterproductive because we have to learn a whole new set of skills, and a whole new skill set, perhaps in a different industry or even just a different company, using their software, etc. And in this case, it was lower paid, so that sort of counterbalanced any advantage I was getting. Another mistake people make is that they're thinking they don't have what it takes. We'll come on to why this is later, but I reassure you that when you're finding work you love, you kind of have this extra strength within you because you really love it, like that enthusiasm there. I was tempted at one point to think, okay, I can't, you know, I'm not performing to the best of my ability in this job, you know, but not through lack of effort, certainly not. I was giving 110%, but I didn't feel like I was making progress in the way I wanted to. I wasn't growing in the way I wanted to. And we start thinking that that's how it always is. But when we're doing what we love, we grow in a different way. We have a different attitude. Thinking, I guess it's too late is another thing. And I really want to encourage people that it's really not. I know that it can seem as though change takes ages. We can't imagine transplanting our whole life from this place we're at now to maybe a place of even ill health, but unhappiness certainly, to like this whole big different career. But actually it can be less time consuming than you might think, or it can be more rapid than you might think. So I really want to encourage you that it's not too late, and it's never too late to start working on a dream, to start putting action towards a dream. Another mistake people make is getting overwhelmed because of all the options. When you catch yourself in that place, and I've done it many times, thinking, okay, well, I want this and I want that and I want the other, like, how do I choose which one? Like, how am I going to know what's the right one? again, we'll come on to why this is, but avoid that. Avoid, just recognize that you're being overwhelmed, and kind of do something to ground yourself, do something to reconnect with yourself, and kind of get some support there, like talk to somebody. It can be overwhelming, but as we'll come on to see, there's a way around. Worrying about making mistakes is another thing. I believe that when we start on a journey to find what we love, the mistakes will all contribute in a way. So it's never really a mistake. I want to save you time by not having 5 years of career changing like I did, and go straight to the good stuff. But actually, they've all those experiences have made me who I am and have contributed to the skills I have now, which is brilliant for me now. Running my own business, all of the skills I've learned have come in useful. In fact, giving up is really the only mistake. So, or rather not doing anything, thinking that's it. Okay, well, let's forget it. It's a stupid idea. So I'd really encourage you with that. Okay, step 1. This bit is from Lucca in Tuscany, a little place that I visited, little town that I visited, famous town. Some of you may have been there. So the first thing is know what you love. Sometimes we're so far into what we don't like, we can't access that part of us that knows what we do like. And I really speak to you if you're in a place of where I was, when it's like permanent tiredness and you're just getting through the day. And I remember being in my job and I was kind of sleeping all weekend and thinking, how am I going to have enough energy for next week? I really feel for you, and really know that that you can recover from that place. There is life beyond there. But when you're kind of so engrossed in that, oh, I hate this, I don't like it, I can't be here, it's really frustrating. Then start with what you don't like, and begin this process by turning everything around. So turning what you do to what you do love. So for example, I used to get really frustrated when I used to walk to work, walk to the tube station from my house every morning, and it was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and so there wasn't that much traffic around, but motorcycles would zoom up the road that I would walk along. It was quite a long road, and 3 or 4 would go past in a typical morning, and they used to make me jump, and I just used to be like, oh, this, I just can't bear this. And then I thought, actually, okay, I need to turn this around to what I do love. I love peace and quiet. I love the sound of nothing, of birds singing. And it's really important to start with that as your kind of bare bones of building this career change, building this, finding work you love. Know who you are and what you love. I cannot underestimate the importance of this. And it's, I guess, a question. So how well do you know yourself? And know what you looks like in one place. We have that group of friends and they know we love this, and we have maybe we've always loved a particular style, whatever it is. Do we know ourselves that well? This is the building blocks of finding what you love, really. So I can give you some examples here. And there's an exercise in my ebook, which you can get from my website, www.clairemeredith.co.uk, that has this exercise in it, which basically encourages you to put everything you love on one bit of paper. The first time I did this, which is why it's in the ebook, I just kind of saw myself for the first time. I was like, okay, all the stuff that I love makes up me. And, whatever anyone else thinks about it, that you have some kind of crazy obsession with learning about medical facts from the 19th century or the 18th century, whatever kind of crazy stuff it is about you that's great, that you love, and maybe no one else does, then be it and own it and know it. And one of the things that you can do this from, maybe you've done some career exercises before, career finding exercises, just kind of keep it really simple. The top 10 things that you love to do, can you write those easily down? The moments at work in your working life that you've maybe had so far, or from, not even from work, from your whole life, the kind of magic moments that you've thought, okay, I've really loved that, I've really felt alive doing that. Can you identify those? If you could do anything you want all day, every day, what would it be? And these seem like kind of crazy, airy, fairy questions, but they are the building blocks for finding what you love. They're building blocks for creating the kind of work you want. So all those exercises that you may have done, and if you haven't done them, you can get hold of my ebook, as I mentioned before. And all the careers you've ever thought about doing. So all the things that have appeal. I used to have, when I started this whole process, I had this myriad of careers that I was interested in, and they were really diverse. So there was like air hostess there was journalist, there was dancer, kind of sailor, probably not a sailor, but like not a skipper, but like a crew, basically. And I thought, well, I can't, I get to this point and I think, well, I can't be an air hostess because of this, this, and this. And then I'm like, what happens if if I'm an air hostess, I can't do any writing, which is why I wanted to be a journalist. Like, how do I make sense of this? And I'd really encourage you to get to know what the essence of what the things that you love are. So you may not like the air hostess job as a package, but what is about air hostesses that you really love? Is it that you really desire to travel? Is it that you love planes? Is it that you'd love to serve people tea and coffee? Like, I really didn't have the tea and coffee thing going around, which is why I didn't want to be an air hostess. But I really envied one of my friends who was an air hostess and could go and travel to far-flung places. So really getting to know yourself is so important, getting to know what you love and putting it all on a big piece of paper, which is this exercise in my ebook. So the reason this is important is for the next step, which is getting clear on your biggest dream. This is that, I'm going to say that thing. This is a picture of Venice, which is the most beautiful city, probably one of my favorite Italian cities. I'm not sure. You've got to know your biggest dream. Why is this important? Well, I spent years trying to fit my kind of talents and skills and things I could do into someone else's job description. And I would look at things and I'd be like, oh, well, I can't do that because I haven't got that experience. I hopped around and I did different jobs and I had a variety of skills, but I tried lots of things and just nothing was quite me. There was always something that wasn't quite right. And although I found the last job I had was the closest in terms of environment that was encouraging. The people were great. There was some creativity in the job. I had autonomy. I was still trying to fit myself into somebody else's ideas, whereas actually what I needed to do first was get clear on my biggest dream and go to town on this and daydream about this. It's got to cover all areas of your life when you do this. So your career, of course, but also your health. What's your biggest dream for your health? Your wealth, your relationships, your hobbies, your body, everything that you could do. What would it look like in perfection? And this seems like a really stupid exercise because you get stuck with but I couldn't have that. How could I possibly have that without winning the lottery? Or it's just impossible. No one can have all the things that they want together in one situation. It just doesn't work. And I would say just throw it out the window and dream. Throw all those nagging voices in your head that say you can't have this, you can't have that. Just forget it and trust me on this. Lots of things I used to think were really impossible and I couldn't see my way around how it would work. By knowing what I wanted in the most pure way, in my kind of highest vision, I often call it, is the most important thing. And the reason is when we go through the process of change, and I sometimes liken my whole life at the time in London. I had was paying rent and I had bills coming out and I had relationships there and I had connections and I had lots of things kind of built into this big ship of a life, and it was kind of heading like the Titanic towards an iceberg. And if I was going to turn that ship round, it had to be a good enough reason. It had to be like a really amazing dream to be able to move this, because you know that's what we're scared of, losing our security. We're scared of going to something and it's not going to be quite as we imagined. This is why it's really important to get to your biggest dream. And I love the Michelangelo quote, which says, "The great danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but setting our aim too low and actually achieving our mark." I just added a word there. I'm going to say it again. "The great danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but setting our aim too low and achieving our mark." And you know, you might say to me, "Well, Claire, like, what happens if I never get to my dream?" And like, let me tell you, I haven't got to my dream yet. And, you know, maybe I never will. But the fact that I'm so much closer than I was, the fact that I have so much of what I wanted, just by getting clear on what I really loved and what I really felt was like the ultimate amazing thing for my life, is enough of a reason to keep pulling me towards more, and also just celebrating where I am now. So be encouraged by that. Like, it might seem like it's impossible to fit all the things you want into your dream and have it all, but start with that place. Okay, so step number 3 is get specific and try to emphasize. This is Bologna. This Bologna, I'm going to just ignore my notes here. This is a practical exercise and a thinking step. Sorry, a practical step and a thinking step. In a way, when we start dreaming in this big dream-like way, we have to get specific, and that can be really challenging because it kind of forces us to really think, oh, okay, what do I want? And Bologna is a good example of this. When I first started creating my biggest vision, I thought I kind of had this hot sunny place in my head, and I thought, it's like Italy. Is it Italy? I don't know. And at that point, I'd never actually been to Italy, not even on holiday. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, how am I going to know? And my coach at the time said to me, okay, well, how can you test it out? And I said, okay, well, I could go there. And she was like, hey, yeah, great idea. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go on holiday to Italy. And that's kind of an example, first of all, trying to emphasize if something's in your dream and you think it's the right thing, a way to know is to just test it out in a small way. So rather than just move my whole life to Italy and try it out, I kind of thought, well, I'd go on holiday there and start that. So, and at the time, I didn't know where even I wanted to go on holiday, and I was kind of Googling like Venice and Rome, and everyone's like, oh, go to this place and go to Siena and, you know, all that kind of thing, go to Rome. And I was like getting really overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? And then I came back to the reason, that the why I thought I would love to live in Italy. And because I kind of fallen in love with it a little bit when I read a John Grisham book called The Broker, and that was set in Bologna. And so I kind of like threw all the Venice thoughts out of my head and said to myself, okay, Rome and all the big places, and said, okay, Bologna, it's a fairly big place, so there's enough to see, but it's what I want to experience, because that's what I've read about. That was where my heart was. So there's an example of getting specific, like an actual place. I've got to go there, and kind of trying to emphasize, like, what would it actually be like? Imagine if I was living here and I actually took myself there and had a go, as it were. And testing something out in a small way is a really good way to have a taste of what you might be experiencing. Because sometimes when we have these big dreams and we're like, oh, well, would I actually like that? I don't even know. You know, I don't even know what it's like because I've never experienced it. So even just in it, kind of bring it back to kind of career side of things, when I was still changing careers, when I still wasn't, I hadn't got clear on my big dream, I did do this in a way as well, because I was thinking about journalism as a career choice. And with that, I was like, right, how can I try this out in a small way? How can I test it out? And I did 2 things. I did a week's work experience at a local paper, which convinced me that although it was a great environment, there were nice people, it wasn't for me. It wasn't the right sort of situation for me. And I kind of still had that thing like, well, you know, I want to satisfy this feeling that I don't know if journalism is right. I don't know. Maybe it's just the kind of setup that the local paper was in. And so instead I thought, right, I need to talk to somebody who's actually in the industry and see what it's actually like. So I spoke to my friend whose boyfriend was a journalist, and I said, oh, would you mind if I just send you a few questions? And he was like, yeah, of course, that's fine. And that was really good. Like, that told me, actually, no, this isn't the right thing. I kind of, from his answer, I thought, this isn't me, this isn't who I am. So getting specific on what it is you want, like pinpointing to places and things, is really important, and trying on for size. And as you start this journey to find work you love, and you start creating this big vision, it's really important to test things out in a small way. And also trying it on where you are right now. So for an example with me, I had in my dream that I wanted to dance. Like, I wasn't sure how much at that point. I was trying to get specific around like whether it's going to be every day or just every week. And I kind of had this in my head, but I was like, okay, I need to have a taste of this right now. And it's something I could do. So when I was in my job in London, with the encouragement of my coach, I actually put some money down and went to have some dance lessons. And this was a big thing for me, because it was a case of, I haven't danced for ages. I've come so far from those things that I love that, how do I get back to that? And actually, it's putting in place the things that I love to do in my diary every week, and that actually happening. So trying it on for size in whatever way right now, as much as you can, or in just a small way, have a taste of what you think you want. So the next step is create a plan. And this step doesn't come until now, because you have to get excited about what you're going to do before you make a plan, because plans which you're not excited about are really, really difficult. So when you're really excited, it's a load easier to plan. So I've already told you about dancing. In the perfection situation, I wanted to be dancing like every day or every week with somebody I really liked and was a really good dancer. And so I was like, well, I want to improve my dance as well, and I can get that into my life now. I can start dancing today. Well, the next week probably. All I had to do was find a dance teacher or dance classes and book them and pay, and then show up with some dance shoes. I already had the dance shoes, so that was one thing gone. So I had to find a dance class, which I did, a local one, and then I had to pay and book and tow up, and I did. And so a plan is not really like a massive, great kind of strategy thing. It's starting from your perfection situation and then working backwards. Now, at the beginning, of course, it's going to look kind of a little bit like there's going to be leaps, and trust me, I've been there. Like, move to Italy is kind of like, okay, well, that's quite a big thing. How do I get from Italy? If I've moved to Italy, then how do I go and work backwards? Well, the steps start off big, but the things that I could do then were learn Italian, start visiting Italy, which is what I explained earlier, and begin to just be more aware of Italy and the way they do things, maybe reading bits from books about living in Italy. And so I could do that then. That was how I started. So the things that you can do now is really important. And I would recommend for this, when it feels like the big vision is not quite right, it's not cohesive, separate out the strands of your life. So career in one, relationships, hobbies, body, health, and start with perfection and kind of work backwards with each of those. And it might seem impossible. Like, I really feel that now for you. I was living in London. I had a busy and a demanding corporate job. I was permanently tired. I didn't seem to be on the kind of verge of promotion or anything. I wasn't finding work easy. I didn't feel connected into a community, and like my social life was kind of dwindling. I was like team drinks now and again and coffees with friends. And my dream was like a totally different thing. It was like living in Italy. It was speaking, writing, coaching. I didn't even really know very much about that at that time. Being in community, and eating amazing food, organic food. And it's taking those two extremes, and even though they feel extremes at the moment, but working backwards through them and taking the steps that you can right now. And another quick example for you. I visited Italy first, and that was my first step. And maybe some of you have been on holiday and think, well, I can't just move to Italy anyway. I've only just been there on holiday, but that doesn't mean I can just move there. At the beginning, I was in a tenancy which still had a fair few months to run. And as I got towards the end of that tenancy, I'd agreed to go, I'd negotiated to go part-time in my work. And I thought, okay, the Italy thing, the Italy move is coming up. This could happen. And so I made a choice at that point. I was like, okay, well, if I sign up for another year or even 6 months on my tenancy, that means I can't go to Italy in that 6 months. And so I chose, okay, well, I don't know if it's going to be able to happen in that 6 months, but I chose to go to a place, move out, and go to a different place which had a month-by-month tenancy. So that step I could then take then, even if when I first developed my dream, it wasn't a feasible option at the time. The time passed, and then I could say, okay, I can make a choice now. Am I going to be in London for the next 6-12 months, or am I going to give myself the opportunity to move to Italy? If you break it down into super small steps, phone calls, conversations with people, booking something, emails, a bit of research, and map out those steps, it makes it a whole lot less scary. And I really hope I encourage you, and I've explained that, how I've done that. This picture, I haven't explained. This is in Tuscany, where I was a few months in last summer. And I kind of it just represented to me that kind of plan. Like, you can see the house. It seems like a long way away, but actually the plan to get to the house is, okay, we've got to do this first, and then we've got to do this, and then we've got to do this. But start with the perfection and almost work backwards. And it can, by breaking it down really small, that whole overwhelmed feeling that you get can stop, can be overcome. Okay, so step 5, get support. This photo was taken in Vicenza, in a small town in northern Italy, and I was having a cup of coffee, and I wasn't reading the paper. It was just there. My Italian's not that good. Get support. I am a big independence person, so this one was really tough for me. Partly why I spent so much time faffing around changing careers was because I was trying to do everything on my own. Get the right support for where you are. You may be early on thinking about your changing your life, changing to find work you love. You may have just only had the thought recently. So for now, don't overwhelm yourself if you're not in that place. You can do really simple things like think of people that you admire, or find people online that have the kind of life that you want, or the work that you want, or just inspire you, and follow them on Twitter, or sign up for their newsletters, or read their blogs, or whatever it is. Put you get a blog reader, blog roll. Then there's other people who are kind of more ready to get on with it, more kind of more desperate. Maybe they're in pain. You're in pain, and you're maybe you're one of those people that your health is suffering. If it's more urgent, then gather people around. Find a group who are similar to you. There's meetup.com. There's Facebook groups online. You can get one-to-one mentoring or coaching to specifically help your situation. But get support. It's just so important. And there are loads of people who are on this journey. even if it feels like at the moment there's no one that you know who would want to leave their job or who want to find work they love and they're just happy doing what they're doing and they don't have this kind of dissatisfaction that you have, then don't fear, because there are people, and just by tapping into some of the networks, particularly online but also offline, you can really support yourself in this journey. Supporting yourself is a concept that I was slightly alien to at the beginning, and it's something that I've really grown and really come to appreciate. I have my values written in my notebook, so it reminds me constantly where my focus is. I keep my inspiration near. You know, I have people that who I admire, who I'm really inspired by. Their newsletters come into my inbox, or I look them up online. I have the top 10 things that I love close to me. So if I'm feeling like, okay, I've got a challenge coming up, I don't know how to handle this, what am I doing? Then I know I have a reference point. I know how to connect with myself and get back to that dream, to that place I know of me. So there are the 5 steps I've shared quite quickly with you today, but I really wanted to pack in loads of content, loads of examples, and going through this change, you don't just want to find what you love, you want to move into work you love. And change is a process, and it can be a challenge, and it can be confusing and overwhelming and tricky and scary and everything. And there are some of you who will be in that place where you want to just really get going on it. You really resonate with the big picture, and you're almost there. So I want to give you some tips as well to managing this transition. This is where I was staying most recently in Italy, and this was kind of one of my favorite spots to walk by. Lovely view, as you can tell, a little river in the middle of the city. So my top tips for managing the transition. The first is be really, really kind to yourself. It can be really challenging when you're thinking about doing something differently. Maybe you are thinking about leaving a job, but you are scared to tell anyone. I mean, don't want to tell anyone at work, or even just your friends, you don't want to kind of voice it at the moment. Be really kind to yourself during those times. It can be a real challenge to kind of hold that in yourself and not share it, and it might just not be the right time. Wherever you are on that journey, when you're halfway through and everything's changing, everything's going crazy, be really kind to yourself. The second thing is take back your lunch hour. To give yourself a break, if your energy levels are low from kind of this feeling that you're not happy where you are, that for me increased as I got closer to leaving and moving into work I loved. And just being able to have a break halfway through the day and kind of inspiring myself and just writing down ideas for things or things I was remembering was really important. And during the transition time, take the breaks that you need. Don't be ashamed of that. Number 3, remind yourself of the inspiration. Keep that nearby, keep it close at hand. Keep that just as your port of refreshment and restoration, to remember, like, this is why you're doing it, and this is what's going on. I can't stress that enough either. All of these I can't stress enough. Number 4, say yes to things that align with your dream. So when you begin to move into what you're doing, what you're changing, get really, really clear on what you will and won't do. And the things that you will do are those that will take you closer to your dream. Part of that plan will be to take action on different things and to take steps towards it. For that, keep saying yes to that, keep saying yes to those things, and that will ease the transition. Number 5, remind yourself of your dream. It can feel really disheartening if we kind of have taken a few steps but nothing seems to be happening, and you're not where you want to be, and you're maybe still in your job and you don't know what you're going to do. get yourself a vision board or a Pinterest board or something, just to keep it kind of there so you can see it. I've resisted doing this for ages. I did a Pinterest board, and that really helped me just kind of something to come back to and say, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going for. Keep your energy levels up by doing things you love. We're back in step one. I talked about knowing what you love to do. Just really knowing yourself is so important, and knowing those things that make you come alive. Just really small things. Like for one of those things is reading a book in the sunshine, and it doesn't cost anything, and more tricky on a cloudy day, I have to say. But it's one of those things that like, okay, yeah, this is something that I can just take a break and chill out and reconnect with myself, giving my energy levels a boost. 7, just generally connecting with yourself. And I have a meditation practice that I've developed. It's the most important thing that I do in my day, and really just kind of connecting with that part of you and that feeling that you can be more and you can do more and that you are more. And that for me has been just one of those times to take time out, even particularly when I was in the kind of busyness of corporate life. That practice was so valuable. Everything works better when you put a date in the diary to do something, to take action. When you've created your plan, it can be really easy to say, okay, I've got a plan, now I have to do something, and then everything stops. So putting a date in the diary, preferably someone else knowing about it or meeting you, whatever it is, can really help get you going, get you making this happen. Number 9 is cry when you need to, let it out. This is when you're on a journey of change, when you want to move into something you love and you're maybe frustrated that you're not there yet, let yourself feel that, let yourself have that emotion. I was so worried about what everyone thought. I would hold it all in, but actually letting it out is really important. And number 10 is the same as the first because it's so important. Be really kind to yourself. Those voices in your head that are saying, oh, you can't do this, you'll never achieve it. If you have those voices, it's time to tell them to go away, to go and shut up and leave the room and don't be anywhere near you. Being really kind to yourself in anything, not just changing and moving towards work you love, finding what you love. With this whole process, you uncovering parts of yourself maybe that you've never seen before or that you don't know about or surprise you, and seeing yourself through change is not easy. So be really kind to yourself. So it's almost time for the Q&A. And if you would like to submit a question, there is a chat box at the bottom of the page where you're watching this, and I'll just check and see if there's any questions. Okay, nothing yet. If you have a question, please drop it in the chat box. You will have to log in. You can use social media, so that's Google Plus, I think, and Facebook, and Twitter. So log in at the bottom, and if anyone has any questions, please pop them in there. And I just wanted to encourage you and support you here. It's hard being in work that you don't love and it's affecting you, and I'm guessing if you're here, it is affecting you in some way. So well done for making a step. It's great to even acknowledge that you've done something about it. That's the first step. You've started. You're doing great, and it is totally possible to make a big change in your life, and it doesn't take as long as you might think if you're willing and you show up and you intend and you do action. And some of you will want to think about what you've heard tonight and not do anything about it, and that's totally fine and great, and that's exactly where you are. Some of you will be able to go and take and put this into action and go for it. That's amazing. Go for it. Let us know how you're getting on as well. And some of you will want more dedicated support, but will want to get started and actually get on and do something. And if you're ready to get this going, I'd like to invite you to have a chat with me, basically just you and me talking about where you want to be. And if you know you'd like that opportunity tonight, there is a button under the screen there should be a button under the screen. Might just have to have a little sort that out technically. So just bear with me a second. Okay, let's just check what we've got here. And while I'm just doing that, just a reminder about the questions. So if you want to submit any questions to me, then please do so in the box beneath the screen, and I will just find the way to put this in. Okay, so the box should be appearing, so you can see that very soon. Okay, any questions? I might just have a sip of water while we're here. Right, Dave, would you be able to let me know if you can see the box? Should be appearing soon. Just a common question that I know people have is about kind of being disappointed. And I know that it can be like, well, I don't want to think about what happens if I don't get my dream. You know, I don't want to think about if it's never going to happen, I'm going to be really annoyed with myself. And it's a good question, because when we're in a place of dissatisfaction and we're not even sure like what we would want instead, perhaps, this is a really a painful question almost. And I would say, as scary as it sounds and as scared as you are of the disappointment, be encouraged that actually when you know what you really want, it's a real clarifying feeling. It's a real an amazing feeling to have that. And I found from my experience, even if it feels like it's going to be it's so far away and so impossible, actually when I started taking steps towards it, it got closer so much more quickly than I thought. You know, these things that I was making happen in my life actually became true. You know, they became who I was and part of my life. And I guess going back to that picture at the beginning that I had of the hat, my hat with the iPad and a cup of coffee, and that was just kind of capturing that moment. Like I'm living it now, and this is what I'm doing. And you kind of have little glimpses as well. I remember even when I first visited Italy and I went to Bologna, and I realized I'd forgotten my original hat that I was going to wear, and I bought that one that you saw in the picture at Gatwick Airport. And it was really funny because I bought it at Accessorize and got to the place that I was staying, and it was like 2 doors away from an Accessorize. And I bought a hat, and I literally could walk into a shop in Italy and buy the same hat. And it just made me laugh because I thought, okay, well, now I feel the part, and I could have even just bought this in Italy. I didn't even need to have bought it at Gatwick. But it really felt like I was kind of living that person. I was becoming the person I wanted to be, who really enjoyed their life, who really enjoyed what they did, and really was, I guess, relishing that and being who I really was meant to be. So although it feels really scary, then I'd really encourage you to chuck that out the window. Don't worry about the disappointment, because even some steps towards will give you that real buzz, that real excitement that you're doing it, you're on that path. Another question that I know that when some people come to me and they're really a low ebb, you know, they're exhausted by what they're doing at the moment, like they're just, life is getting them down, and it's like, oh, I'm so exhausted, like I can't even think about this, and I would say your priority is always to get yourself on an even keel. And you can do this by prioritizing kind of you time and saying no to everything else, basically. Yes, keep your income coming in, go to work, but ultimately, if you can connect with those things that you love, if you can give yourself a bit of space and time to really go back to that place, maybe for some of you, it's been a long time since you've even thought about doing all the things you used to love to do as a kid. Maybe your creativity hasn't been seen for years. I was totally in that place. Creating a bit of space to kind of explore that and think back and write down and identify what you really love to do is really important. So counter some of that exhaustion by connecting in with those things that you love, and prioritize your well-being. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the end of the time here now. So I just want you to, the yellow box is there, so that's great. If you want to connect with me, if you want to have a chat about how you can get clear, you just need to click that yellow box and it will pop up with another box where you just put in your details, and I will come back to you very quickly within 24, 48 hours. So please do that if that's you. I'll be in touch to arrange that date for us to talk. And for the rest of you, you might want to listen to this replay, the replay of this webinar again. It will be available for a limited time. If you're listening on the replay, that offer is still open to you. Please get in touch through the yellow button. And thank you everyone for attending tonight. Thank you for your patience at the beginning with the technical hitches that we had, and have a very good evening.